Hello shooters, my name is James Towle and you're watching the American Trigger Sports Network Television, your station for live news and available to you 24/7 on your computer when you want to see it. On today's show, we sit down with the publisher of the hunting report, Barbara Crown, and discuss hog hunting, which some call hog culling, depending upon your point of view. You'll see how this subject has become so controversial. We'll start off in Indiana and shoot our way into the skies over Texas. Listen, I received the flyer that you sent me on what's going on in Indiana. So you kind of run me down on that because we've got a lot to talk about on this flyer. Go ahead, introduce us.
Well, as we've talked about many times in the past, there are a number of states with infestation levels of feral hogs, and Indiana is one of those. And we received word from the Indiana Department of Wildlife that they had passed some new regulations some months back, and they were reminding everybody that it is now illegal in the state of Indiana to possess or import a live feral hog. If you have one in your possession, you are required by law to immediately kill it. And they've also passed some other requirements. It removes the ability to give economic or any other type of compensation for providing recreational opportunities to hunt wild hogs, which means you can't sell these as hunts anymore. If you can, however, hunt on anybody's property any time of the year without permit, as long as you have permission from the landowner to shoot as many wild hogs as you can and like. They are also asking people if they are out and about and they see any feral hogs, that they should call the department or animal control right away and tell them where these hogs are and how many there are, and that they're going to dispatch someone to remove them immediately. So they're taking a very aggressive stance here in Indiana.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, I know that you get a lot of these flyers, and I do too, and I kind of look at them and I read them over, and I go, well, you know, maybe some of the things on there are stretching it a bit. I mean, here's one, for instance. Is a Vietnam pig, you know, those Vietnamese pigs that they have as a pet, how does that fit in? And I wondered about that, and then I read down to the flyer, and it's done very well, and I'll just read what it had to say here. Wild hogs are called many different names, such as wild pig, wild boar, feral pigs. The name all refers to non-native swine in various types that have either illegally been released or were formerly domestic pigs that then became feral. They possess problems in many states, including Indiana. So I don't really have a strict definition on whether a pet Vietnam pig is a pet or is a, but they attempt to try to explain that in the flyer, and so you know, I probably need to get a further definition on that. But it's a small issue.
My advice to anybody with a Vietnamese pot-bellied pig is keep him on a leash if you take him outside.
Keep him out.
He's probably open game.
Okay, well, I went down here further because, like I said, you and I both get a lot of these. And here's one part of that I also had a question about, was wild hogs cause extensive damage to agricultural crops, are a source of disease for domestic stock, will prey upon young livestock and small animals. Wild hogs may carry a number of diseases that can also infect people, contaminate human food resources, and water supplies. Wild hogs have also been known to destroy residential lawns, landscaping, golf courses, and rural cemeteries. I mean, I got a shiver. I kept thinking, I immediately imagined a horror film where you've got, you know, Grandpa is being devoured in the graveyard here. I mean, that one scared me a little bit, but but okay, I went on, I cleared my mind on that, and I thought, no, wait a minute, don't we hear the same things about, you know, raccoons? Don't we hear the same things about any kind of, you know, wild dogs, foxes? I mean, don't they all do the same thing? So I'll tell you what I did, Barbara. I actually called the man responsible for this, Stephen Black, who wrote the wildlife. He is a wildlife research biologist, And I contacted him and I asked him a few of these questions. And, you know, his response to that was actually very good, and I think you'll enjoy this. Well, I think it's safe to say that other species of wildlife do or can do the same similar types of damage. I think it is a combination of scale and the fact that the wild hogs are not native to the wildlife area and are considered an invasive species. Now, that kind of led me to believe that the pot-bellied pig is probably not involved when I read that part. He responded to these questions very well, actually. He also, potential disease problems far beyond the normal realm of natural occurring diseases in wildlife with direct negative implications to domestic livestock and human health. Basically, any organic 18 inches below or above the surface that doesn't move quickly is potential food for a wild hog. And they have very few predators. So I thought, you know, Mr. Back answered that question very well, and I want to thank him for doing so and taking the time to answer us on this. The other question I asked him after reading this was the primary impact on wetlands and water resources. You know, I thought to myself, wetland and water resources, how could this, how does it really affect that? And he did have an answer for me. And when we come back, Barbara, we'll go over that answer.
Okay.
Hello, shooters. We're back with Barbara Crown. She's in Miami. She's the publisher of the Hunting Report. And we are going to discuss a flyer that was sent to us from, I believe it was the Fish and Game Wildlife Research Department in Indiana concerning hog hunting. By the way, that video that you may or may not have witnessed took place in Texas, not in Indiana. But let me just run over this. You know, I was concerned, Barbara, when I read part of this flyer and it referred to the fact that the hogs somehow were impacting the wetlands and water resources. And I thought to myself, well, what could that be about? Well, when Steve Back, a wildlife research biologist, answered that question for me, he goes on to tell me, and I don't know, I didn't think about this, that the wallowing and the rooting and grubbing activities, along with the defecation into the water sources, is what they're concerned with. Now, okay, and then he went on to tell us even more, Barbara, and I bet you didn't know this, that the defecation into water sources also presents a spectrum of disease issues, especially since wild hogs can be live carriers of a wide array of disease pathogens for livestock, human, and wildlife. For example, you may recall the national recall of spinach from California a few years ago. And many of us, I don't know, I guess I didn't equate this with hogs, but in fact, the E. coli that they found there was traced back to wild hogs that were in there. And it says in your state, in Florida, 50% of the wild swine populations are known to be carriers of swine brucellosis. Did you know that? Yes,
I did, and that's why hog hunters here in Florida wear gloves when they gut and clean their pigs out. Because of that, it is a concern here in Florida. And funny thing is, we spoke with the wildlife biologist in Indiana, and when I told him when we were calling from, he said, well, y'all got a bigger hog problem than we do. Why are you calling me?
Yeah, I didn't tell Stephen that I'm from Texas, you know. I thought, well, I don't even want to open that issue. I didn't want to start that issue because he would have laughed that I'm even calling him. But we have a solution, and I think he's working on a good solution. In fact, I want to thank Stephen again for taking the time to answer my many questions, and I had a lot of them. Now, look. You know, I want to leave that issue because you have something even more exciting for me, and that is tactical hog hunting.
Yeah, this was a report from one of our subscribers. As you know, the Hunting Report gets reports from our subscribers, and then we write critiques based on those reports and share them with other hunters. And this was an interesting hunting opportunity that he enjoyed in Texas with a company called Tactical Hog Control. And what they do is they supply their hunting client with night vision equipment, military grade night vision equipment. And they go out at night on properties where they have made an agreement with the landowner, and the landowner really wants to get rid of large numbers of feral hogs from his property. And they go out and they hunt these animals at night under cover of darkness like commandos, with the goal of shooting as many of these feral animals as possible. And he wrote us a delightful report detailing what his experience was like, and what it was like to hunt at night legally, and be able to shoot a large quantity of animals that are devastating properties throughout Texas.
Yeah, so you show up with the gun, they supply the night vision equipment, and hey, you're on a hunt. Was that what I'm hearing?
You just show up. They give you everything.
Oh, they give you everything?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty exciting stuff. Okay, and tell me the name of the outfitter again.
It is called Tactical Hog Control, and you can find them on the web at www.tacticalhogcontrol.com.
Okay, and this is only taking place in Texas?
Correct.
Where
and it
else?
is legal to shoot at night in Texas for wild hogs,
right, and
predators as well.
Right. I think Texas is the only state that allows that. Is that not correct?
I believe so. I think it is allowed in Georgia as well for wild hogs. Obviously, animals like deer and other game are off limits. We're only talking about shooting feral hogs here with this kind of equipment at night.
Or predators.
And there's a company, I understand, in Georgia that does it as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I was unaware of that. And viewers, if anyone else has any information out there about other states that allow this, I think Barbara and I both would like to know about it, because up until this very moment, I didn't know that you could do that in Georgia. And I'm going to question Mark Walters when he comes on, because he ought to know. He lives close to there, so he might be able to fill us in on some of that. But that sounds like a pretty exciting hunt. And, you know, maybe we should talk about that in the future. Maybe we can get one of those hunters to tell us a little more, give us a few stories and some pictures. What do you think?
Well, as a matter of fact, you can read the full story from my subscriber on the Hunting Report website under website uploads on our homepage. And there's a few photographs posted there as well. So you can read the whole thing there.
Okay, there you go. It's on the screen right now, ladies and gentlemen. Go out there, go to the Hunting Report, the most comprehensive report on hunting around the world. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you, James. Take care.
Hey, shooters, I've just been handed a special report from the NRA. The NRA has filed an injunction against the state of Illinois, and if successful, it will bring an immediate halt to the gun ban there. Rachel Parsons is coming up, our spokesperson for the NRA ILA. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, James?
I'm good. Listen, word has it the NRA has filed a motion for injunction in the state of Illinois. Tell me about that.
Sure thing. Well, the NRA has been involved in lawsuits in the state of Illinois for many years now, but we are very determined to bring right to carry to the state of Illinois. And this week, the Seventh Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals ruled that any violation of the Second Amendment constitutes irreparable harm. And that is one of the factors needed to file a preliminary injunction to make sure that, to challenge the constitutionality of Illinois' ban on right to carry. So what we've done is file a motion for an immediate end to the ban on right to carry in the state of Illinois. Now, I want to remind everybody that just last week, the governor of Wisconsin signed right to carry into law in that state, making it the 49th state to allow some form of right to carry. Illinois is now the lone standing state that bans the option of law-abiding people to carry a firearm concealed outside of their home for self-defense. We will continue to fight this ban tooth and nail to bring right to carry to the state of Illinois. We think that it's unconstitutional for that state to deny lawful people their right to self-defense. We fought them on their ban for handgun ownership in the city of Chicago, and we'll continue to fight that state as long as it takes to bring right to carry to the state of Illinois. We find it to be a horrible denial of constitutional rights.
No, I absolutely agree with you. We've talked about Illinois for, I don't know, dozens of times. So for those of us who don't quite understand this, tell me what's different about this move as opposed to other things that you've attempted with Illinois in the past. What makes the injunction different?
Sure. Well, what was needed was that we needed the court to say that any violation of the Second Amendment constitutes irreparable harm. That is one factor that we needed to file an injunction to end, for an immediate end of the ban. We want the courts to immediately say, Illinois, you cannot deny your citizens the right to carry a concealed firearm for self-protection.
Okay.
That's what we want. We filed suit in the state to get that. And finally, the Court of Appeals has given us a factor that we've needed to file this injunction, and so that's what we've done.
So that's what's different about it. Okay,
Yes.
Now I understand you're going directly to the courts rather than go through the legislature, and this may be an immediate ending to the situation.
Sure, exactly.
Right.
And we will continue to fight by whatever legal or legislative means necessary to bring right to carry to the state of Illinois.
Shooters, we'll see more of Rachel in future reports. She is our NRA ILA spokesperson and a regular ATSN contributor. Now, turning back to Barbara Crown, publisher of the Hunting Report, I have more good news for you. Ever want to hunt Atlantic walrus? How about a future possibility of hunting California sea lion? Tell me about the Atlantic walrus. Come on.
This is a fascinating little hunt. It's with Inuit guides, and they continue to hunt walrus in the Arctic. It is part of their traditional heritage, and by Canadian law, they are allowed to continue hunting walrus, and they get a quota. And what they're doing is they're offering these hunts to sport hunters. And the sport hunter gets to go, he gets to experience a unique hunt that you can't do anywhere else in the world for a unique species, and he gets to take home the tusks, which are ivory, and the Inuit keep the meat because they eat these animals. So it's really a win-win all the way around, and it provides also funds for the conservation efforts up there. Unfortunately for U.S. hunters, because of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, you cannot bring back the ivory. But this particular hunter that sent me his report, Mr. Glenn Steen, is from New Zealand, so he didn't have to worry about the Marine Mammal Protection Act. He was able to take his ivory back home and set up his trophy back home. But it's just a fascinating hunt, truly unique. For the guy that's done everything else and just wants to do something really different, this is one that he might want to look at.
Yeah, you know, that's certainly one of the animals that I would like to have. I have some jewelry, a ring here that does have ivory in it. It's elk ivory, and I get asked about it quite a bit. frankly, and I always come back to people and I say, what are the two kinds of ivory that are available in North America? And you know, I'm surprised each and every time I ask that, how few people actually know the answer to that question. And there are only two, and it's elk and it's walrus. Unfortunately, as you said, we can't bring the walrus into the United States. Does that look like it might change?
Oh, that's a good question. It's going to be tough to change that one, but there are a number of species that are coming back up that were considered endangered, that the arguments are now being made that they are no longer endangered and we should be able to hunt them. One of them, of course, is the wolf. Another one I just heard about is the California sea lion. They've recovered so well that they're wreaking havoc among endangered salmonids that they're trying to save, and they can't because there's so many of these sea lions eating them. So wow. I think we're going to see some changes coming along because many of these species have recovered and their numbers need to be controlled.
Yeah, okay, well, that's very interesting, and that was a great report. I know you had more to say. Go to the Hunt Report and get the rest of the information. Again, we'll see you again next week, I hope. Barbara, thank you very much. Excellent report.
Absolutely.
Shooters, thank you for tuning in this week. We will have more special reports in the future from Rachel Parsons and the NRA, as well as other contributors such as Barbara Crown, publisher of the Hunting Report, David Codrea, host of War on Guns, Notes from the Resistance, discussing the latest on your Second Amendment rights, and our favorite host of Armed American Radio, Mark Walters. Plus, more shooting footage from a range near you. See you next week.